I am Steve Lascauso, and this is The Way. You're listening to the June 2024 This is The Way podcast Star Wars news update. The Acolyte show is now streaming on Disney+. The writing has been awful. The acting has been terrible. The decisions Lucasfilm is making in storytelling are baffling, and where they could be inventing new lore, they often choose controversy and contradiction and confusion, and they're cherry picking from legends. And listen, that's their decision. And the action has been okay, and yes, just okay, not great, just okay. And these are my opinions. But they are shared by a multitude of fans, not just a few. They're not just the vocal majority right now. It is the majority of fans that feel very similar to how I do. And guess what? That doesn't matter. You are allowed to like this show. You are allowed to tell people you think it's great. You shouldn't, though, go telling people it's great, and then if you think otherwise, that makes you terrible. Look, if you tell me it's well written and that I'm the crazy one, then it's my duty to point out to you you're misinformed. Like whatever you like. But you can't be a better Star Wars fan than someone else because you just claim to like everything that you see. At that point, you're not even being more positive. Comparing yourself, telling people who have opinions other than your own to shut up if you don't like it, that is not bringing positivity to Star Wars. Star Wars also is not for everybody. It's not for my children. They don't love it. It's not for a lot of my friends. They're not into it. Star Wars is for people who like Star Wars. I like Star Wars. And that's why, of all the subjects that I could have podcasted, I finally decided to start with Star Wars. I mean, I love everything about it except for the fans. Or at least the fans that make it their job to tell everyone, you know, if you don't love everything about it, you're hate-filled, racist, bigoted, you know, don't you dare have a critical eye, and that means you can't be a fan because you're critical. Right now, it is an adversarial relationship for me, not with Star Wars, but with some of the fandom.
Everything's gonna be alright, kid.
Okay, it's time to update you on Star Wars news since the last news update podcast. The Acolyte's June 4th debut and subsequent weeks of streaming on Disney Plus have proven divisive on Star Wars social media. First, content creators were coming out pointing out how awful the show was, and then defenders of the show were defending it, and then there were death threats and death wishes, and I don't care about any of that. The hypocrisy is what annoys me more than anything, and I am very passionate about this, more than I would like. I lost followers over this online debate process. I'm not interested in an echo chamber, but I think there are valid criticisms of the show, and you can still like the show or like Star Wars and have real problems with the writing and the action. Those are not mutually exclusive things. Leslie Headland told us she's going to tell a story about the Sith. Then there were people out there saying, no, he's not. This is not about the Sith. This has nothing to do with it. But she's already said she's telling a story about the Sith. I think we're seeing the great groundwork laid for an introduction to Plagueis, if not Palpatine. So in this show, my fear is, so May will live like Reva did, but even worse than allowing Reva to survive, May or Osha ends up being the one that impregnates Shmi Skywalker using witch secrets. So I'm fine with Khmer being abandoned by Plagueis or Tenebrous or whoever and decide, well, if I can't be Sith, I'll form the Knights of Khmer, or which becomes the Knights of Ren, or whatever whatever happens to that storyline. I just don't have faith anymore in Disney to tell Star Wars stories. So this is how I'm going to cover The Acolyte on This Is The Way podcast. the past experiences I've had with the online Star Wars community make me not want to cover this show. I'm going to be overly negative, and people tell me you can't be negative about Star Wars. And people don't want to hear negativity. They want to hear positivity. Everyone does. Even the people who like the show want to be positive about it. And there's enough of those content creators out there hating on it, whether valid reasons or not. So I don't need to be another voice talking about how much I don't like the direction that Star Wars is going. I'm sorry if you're looking more from me right now. I just don't want to expend that effort and that time and add stress to my life where I don't have the incentive.
Okay, then.
Bryce Dallas Howard gave an interview to Collider. Do you remember the old Jedi Council show? Collider, the Jedi Council? She's directed episodes of The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett, and now Miss Howard will get at least one episode of Skeleton Crew. That is not the news. There will be more news about this show. It's a live-action show. It's coming out supposedly this winter. No, the news is, she said in that interview, Jon Favreau was on the set almost daily. So Favreau's not a creative director with Lucasfilm like Dave Filoni is. He's not even the showrunner of Skeleton Crew. That's John Watts. He was the director of the most recent Spider-Man series of movies, Homecoming, No Way Home, Far From Home, that sort of thing. He's the showrunner of Skeleton Crew. So what is Favreau doing on the set all the time if it's not his show? I know he's friends with Watts, but perhaps this show will tie into the Mandiverse in some way. This show, Skeleton Crew, will be a live action show. It's going to feature a lot of kids. It's not an animated show. It's been compared, like it's been said, it's like Space Goonies. Jude Law is the lead male actor in the show. Howard also mentioned she's going to use more practical effects, or at least the series will. There is involvement from Phil Tippett, who did a lot of the stop motion stuff in the original series. These are all the sorts of things that lend trust for Star Wars fans to what you're doing. This is great news. Think what you want about Favreau's storytelling and writing, but he did hit the right tone, especially for me, in visuals, action, themes with The Mandalorian. That's the whole reason this podcast exists, is because I got to see a little snippet of what was coming. This is the way I like Star Wars. The Mandalorian Season 2 finale, original trilogy, grow up playing with the original Kenner action figure style of storytelling. Ron Howard's daughter Bryce also mentioned she would like to direct a Star Wars movie someday, like her father Ron did with a Solo when he came in to take over for Lord and Miller. I would have rather her just first been put in charge of a show like The Acolyte instead of Headland. Maybe show writing a series next would be smart if she's wanting to do a movie. Maybe she would have avoided all that witch chanting in episode 3 and the lightsaber hair cutting in episode 4. I could go on, but this is about the Skeleton Crew, and I'm trying to be more positive, and with the way things are going, it's not that easy anymore.
Don't you ever want to do anything exciting?
I'm excited for the Skeleton Crew, and I do plan on covering that show. So we'll be back to form with that. But I'm also very interested in the second season of Andor. An online news magazine called The Playlist says Orson Krennic actor Ben Mendelsohn is going to reprise his Rogue One role toward the end of Season 2, which is supposed to be coming out next year. Now, how did this news magazine get this scoop? The writer of the article spoke to one of the directors, Alonso Ruiz Palacios, who mentioned he had an opportunity to work with actors like Mendelsohn, Stellan Skarsgård, and Forrest Whitaker, who played Saw Gerrera. Now, I realize that Skarsgård's Luthen Rael is not in Rogue One. He didn't make it there, or they didn't feature him in that movie. He wasn't even a character at that point. I was kind of hoping that Rael would end up being a survivor and he would get to see that sunrise of the New Republic. That would be great, but that's not usually how stories go. Saw Gerrera is in Rogue One, of course. Rael is not. So I have the feeling we're being told through the way characters, end up developing that Krennic is going to get one of them. He's not going to get both of them. Maybe getting Rael is the reason why Gerrera goes off and goes crazy and is in hiding. Ruiz Palacios is going to direct 3 episodes, and I'm guessing it's going to be the last 3 based on that seems to be the most likely place to put the storyline with Rael and Saw Gerrera and Orson Krennic. Janusz Metz is going to get 3 others to direct, and then Ariel Kleiman is going to get 6 episodes. Writers for the season are Beau Willimon, Dan Gilroy, Tom Bissell, and the showrunner Tony Gilroy. Gilroy is listed in the Writers Guild of America directory for the first 3 episodes. Then his brother Dan Gilroy, who wrote the Aldhani arc in season 1, he will be credited with 7 through 9. Willimon is writing the Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi movie with James Mangold and wrote the Narkina prison arc series of episodes. He gets the writing credit on Andor's second season, episodes 4, 5, and 6. Bissell wrote some of the video game stories for the Gears of War video game series, but he's probably most notable for co-writing a non-fiction book, The Disaster Artist. That was about the inception and creation of Tommy Wiseau's movie, The Room.
Mark?
Oh, I'm sorry, I have dialogue?
Yeah.
I'm used to just staring intensely.
Star Wars gamers, have you been playing Star Wars Hunters? It's a game that released in early June, and even though it is very microtransaction heavy, the base game is free on Apple Gaming and the Nintendo Switch store. I was playing it. It's okay. I mean, I was playing it a lot closer to the release, but now I'm not playing as much anymore. It's very clear, though, repeated play is almost necessary in order to stay competitive. Most free-to-play games do not reward repeat play with anything other than experience in the game and maybe the ability to earn cosmetics. To be clear, the game's not pay to win, so you can't buy upgrades to your character that you wouldn't get without paying money, but it is play to win. And by that I mean you have to level up each playable character in order to compete with seasoned veterans of the game on a level playing field. You do more damage at the higher levels, and you get more skills and things. There's supposed to be level or rank appropriate matchmaking, and you can play random game modes, but expect to be minimally effective no matter what your gaming skills are until you level up those characters a little bit.
Here are today's combatants.
Star Wars Bounty Hunter is a different game from Star Wars Hunters. Star Wars Bounty Hunter was first released in 2002 for PlayStation 2 and Nintendo GameCube. It's getting an update, though, for newer systems. It will release for PS5, I think PS4, Xbox, Switch, and PC on August 1st of this year. I won't spoil the details of the story of the game if you didn't play the original, but you play as Jango Fett, and the storyline helps explain how he gets picked to be the clone trooper template, and there's a tease that you might actually be able to unlock Boba Fett, his son.
Lord Tyrannus, our cloners require a host.
Game developer BitReactor was interviewed by PC Gamer Internet Magazine. It claims, the developer does, that no matter how poorly the tactics and strategy genre of gaming is commercially, this studio is going to remain dedicated to making a Star Wars entry in that genre. The article details how poorly the most recent big-name entry into that genre performed, Marvel's Midnight Suns. That's Marvel, it's not Star Wars, but lead animator for BitReactor Hector Antunes says the team is passionate about producing this type of game and that there is a market for it. So games like Final Fantasy Tactics and XCOM, those were part of my gaming past, but most kids aren't playing chess, they're playing Battle Royale. And that's how I would... Final Fantasy Tactics is more like chess, and then you got Fortnite.
May the Force be with you.
BitReactor is developing the Star Wars tactical strategy game with Electronic Arts and Respawn Entertainment. And that's the studio behind the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor games. There's no release window, and there's no name for the title that BitReactor is working on. It's just a pledge to see this through no matter how poorly sales might be promised.
I've got a bad feeling about it.
And Fantasy Flight Gaming has a Star Wars deck building game based on the original trilogy. Now, this August, there's going to be a new set of cards themed for the Clone Wars. Not Attack of the Clone, but the Clone Wars. Sounds like it's going to be more than just a new deck, though. The cards seem to encourage play differences between Republic and Separatist factions. Republic cards will focus on buffs that cards give each other, while the Separatist faction cards will focus more on the tap, remove, regenerate mechanics that people play who play the Magic of the Gathering series. You might be more familiar with that type of play for the Separatist side. Fantasy Flight Gaming mentioned you don't need their original set to play this new set, but you can also combine those decks, just like Magic the Gathering can combine decks and stuff, and you can play that way.
Biker Scout, you're not all you're cracked up to be.
Speeder bike action figures sold separately.
All right, collectors, Hasbro Pulse's latest HasLabs entry is a vintage collection Mos Eisley Cantina playset, and funding for this thing ends on July 8th. There is a countdown clock on the funding website. It's got over 6,000 of the 8,000 necessary backers for the base set as of the recording of this podcast. There's the base set at 400 and a deluxe set for 500. Yeah, 400 and 500. The base set comes with 3 figures, the Tanika sisters and Wooer the bartender. The deluxe set comes with an extra wall, booths, and furniture. So, if you're getting this and spending $400, I don't know why you wouldn't want the booths and furniture, but come on, $500? And if this project hits 11,000 backers, remember I guess we're halfway to that, there will be a Greedo figure added. 14K and a Nabran Leeds feed gets added. That's the gas mask looking avocado shape headed alien in the original series. And then 17,000 backers unlocks the werewolf-looking patron, Arlyle Shoos. The Acolyte is getting some more figures announced. A vintage collection Osha Anasaia was announced coming this fall for $17 in the series. Then there's a Black Series edition available for pre-order right now on Amazon and Hasbro Pulse, and it will ship this fall for $25. And then Osha also has a Black Series Holocom edition, which is the light-up Bounty Puck-looking version exclusive to Hasbro Pulse and Shop Disney in the fall for $28, as well as a May Black Series Holocom edition, but that will be exclusive to Walmart.com in late July. So the sisters each have a Holocom edition, which is that light-up Bounty Puck-looking one, for $28, and one will be available in the fall, one exclusive to Walmart.com in late July. There's a retro collection Star Wars figure set coming, a multi-pack for $60. That's going to include Mother Anasaia, Yord, Fandar, May, Sol, Osha, and Jeki Lon in packaging reminiscent of the 70s Kenner action figure line. Ahsoka, that show will also have 2 new figures available as well. There's a Shin Hati Black Series coming available this July, exclusive to Target, for $25, with a shipping window in October of 2024. That's this fall. Also, a Black Series Holocom Light-Up Puck Edition. Yes, just like May and Osha, but this one for the Ahsoka series. And this will be Jabba the... Lando Calrissian... Sorry, a Black Series Holocom Ezra Bridger. $28 this fall at Hasbro Pulse and everywhere else, I think, but I'm not sure. but it's definitely going to be $28 this fall, and you can pre-order that now through that Hasbro Pulse website.
And what would your name be, young man?
Jabba the Hutt.
Indeed. You are a tad small for a Hutt, but I know someone else that goes by the name Jabba. Ezra Bridger.
One more thing for the collectors. Do you like the design of the cortosis helm of the Stranger in the Acolyte? Do you want to be called Smilo Ren? The toothy-grinned helmet of the red-bladed dark-side Force user, whatever he is going to ship in the fall of 2025. That's next year, not this fall, next fall. Fans of the show were quick to point out, hey, it's already sold out at $99. I guess fans must really love it. I would like to point out that it was priced at the standard role-playing helmet price of $99. That's what all the other helmets are for this role-playing 14-up age helmet. And you can say it's sold out, but you don't know how many helmets were planned for production. So if there were 10 planned and it's sold out, well, too bad, so sad. It's sold out already. That doesn't mean that it was, something that was in high demand. Also, the website limited available purchases to 3 per customer. But the Black Series premium electronic helmet that's still available to purchase has no such limit of 3 per customer. It's my contention that a certain segment of fans are going to be using this ages 14 and up helmet for something other than Star Wars role-playing, if you get my drift.
Just one more thing.
Okay, Disney Parks news time. No more Genie Plus. Disney World is doing away with the new old way of ride reservations for a new Lightning Lane multi-pass and single pass method that is evocative of the old way of doing things in FastPass. These are still going to be premium purchasable add-ons to a standard park pass, but they will be limited to certain rides, certain tiers, and you have to get them all in the same park. And while it does bring back the aspect of the old FastPass where you can reserve your first 3 rides for the day, it will again be a premium price per ticket, per park, guarantees nothing, and also will not include every ride. There will once again be a ride tier system, and while it does seem better and cheaper than the most recent iteration, it's still not a system with parkgoers in mind. Disney could have started charging a nominal fee for the FastPass way back when. It could have even added the fee to your annual pass if you're a pass holder. And then you could keep it for included for hotel guests, and then you could slowly raise prices and then made it an additional add-on there. And it would have been slowly bringing park goers to a boil, like the frog in the pot kind of adage. If you put it in, you boil it, you won't notice it's getting boiled. Well, instead of that, they took a system that people never thought was perfect, but was better than the free-for-all that the parks have become lately. Then they reduced the Disney Parks experience instead of plussing it. For now, you can still purchase Genie Plus on the day of the visit via the app, and that's subject to availability. But this new Lightning Lane change goes into effect July 24th, 2024. The new way will also limit the purchase window to 14 days prior to arrival for guests with select hotels. Not all hotels in the Disney parks, but they will include some that are not owned by Disney, then 3 days out for all other guests. So also, if you are out of the country, you can't purchase it even if your trip is upcoming and it's within the 14-day window. So you still might not get everything you want if you're outside the country and you're coming in, Canada, Mexico, any other country. You have to be inside the United States to purchase those and then start reserving those rides. So, and that doesn't matter. So if your plane flight arrives the day that you're going to go to your first park, you're not going to be able to, until you land in the United States, you're not going to be able to purchase those, and you're going to have to land in Orlando, obviously. But unless you're coming and then going to the park much later, there's a chance that you could buy that pass and then still not be able to reserve the rides that you want. And it's, again, 3 at one time, and then it'll be 1 after. But, if you want something like Rise of the Resistance or the new Tron ride at Magic Kingdom, you still have to purchase a Lightning Lane single pass for that. So those passes are going to work just as before, ride per ride, ticket per ticket, and they're probably going to be the same ones available now with a limit of 2 per ticket per day. So you could pay double for your tickets if you're not careful and you're really interested in riding some of those rides. It might just be better just to see what you can do. Unless this is your first time, then maybe you want to make sure that you see certain rides. Other than that, it's not perfect, this new Lightning Lane, but it is better, I think, and it's a better value as well than the old Genie Plus Wish, which, by the way, is still available until July 24th of this year.
I think we can let him off with the warning this time.
Okay, if you think I've missed something, you disagree with me, you want to tell me how awful I am, tell me how great I am, send me email. thisisthewaypodcast@gmail.com. How else can you interact with This Is The Way Podcast? Well, all our links can be found in one place at Linktree, linktr.ee/This Is The Way Pod. Thank you so much for joining me, Steve Lascalzo, for This Is The Way Podcast's June 2024 news update. May the Force be with you always.